Saanich North and Islands.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure today to rise to speak at second reading to Bill 17, and I would like to recognize the Minister and the Ministry for the substantial challenge that they face as we are now starting to get into a body of work that the Minister has to deal with respect to cannabis policy, as the federal government is moving towards a different regime for controlling cannabis in our country. And I do want to recognize that as I'm working through these bills, that the Minister has got, in many cases, moving targets that they're working with. And that can't be easy when you're creating legislation. And I think that this bill, when it comes to the Motor Vehicle Amendment Act, is an example of that. And so I just want to acknowledge the challenge that the Minister has and the Ministry has, and as well how incredibly important this piece of legislation is that we get right. Public safety is incredibly important, and getting it right is going to be a challenge. Acknowledging the fact that there's a reason why this country is moving towards legalization of cannabis, and perhaps that there is quite a bit of people partaking in cannabis and out on the streets. But I think that it's important that we get this piece right and acknowledge that even the ability to test drivers who might be under the influence of cannabis is a substantial challenge. So as I see this bill will be passed by regulation, and therefore I expect it will also be evolving over time as technologies and as our experience becomes, as we become more experienced on this issue. I expect that there will be changes that are made through regulation. Just want to, I think at this point in time, of course we're going to be moving this forward to committee, but at this point in time I just want to acknowledge early that I think that one of the key pieces to diminishing the amount of cannabis consumption and driving will be education. And I know that the government has already began a fairly substantive campaign. And this would be one campaign that I certainly won't complain about public resources being put into it in a substantial way to ensure that youth right through to adults are educated and given the information to ensure that we decrease the instances of consuming cannabis and driving. I note that I grew up in the late 1980s and 1990s, and even since throughout that time period to now, we've had a substantial change in just the public perception around drinking and driving. And I think that I would credit that, at least from my experience, was in a great deal due to the public education that was undertaken by previous provincial governments going back a few decades, having it front and center in our high schools and having the conversation and the road check system, bringing it to the public's awareness that it's not safe to be consuming drugs or alcohol and driving. And so certainly my hope, and probably outside the purview of this bill, is that the government does take advantage of the substantial opportunity to educate British Columbians and continue to do it. And as I note, to a great extent, it's already happening. Finally, before I take my seat, I would just like to also point out that we're not the only jurisdiction that struggles with the ability to test drivers or the ability to overcome the challenge of THC remaining in the bloodstream. Unlike alcohol, there's significant challenges that THC poses that alcohol does not. And we're not the only jurisdiction right now that's challenged with that. Of course, every jurisdiction in Canada will be looking at that and dealing with it in their own way. And in addition, I think United States jurisdictions in the United States of America are also looking at this, and some are getting it right, some maybe not. But I think that this is a considerable opportunity, and I see that the Minister for Jobs, Trades and Innovation is here. This is a significant opportunity to drive innovation, to put a challenge out to the innovators in our society and say, we've got a really wicked problem here, and that is the federal government's moving towards legalization, creating a different system of controlling cannabis, and we need a way to be tools to be able to hand to our public safety officers to be able to do this, to be able to keep the public safe, and turn the amazing minds of Canadian colleges and universities onto this. I'm sure that they already are, but maybe some kind of challenge to really see if we can come up with a solution. So I'll just leave it at that. It was some good luck that the minister was here today, and I had an opportunity to present that to him directly in the House today. So having said that, I look forward to the committee stage of the discussion and the debate. We'll be going through this clause by clause, and I look forward to that. I do have some questions and some clarification of the minister and the ministry, and look forward to that opportunity. So at this time, I'll take my seat and thank the minister for the good work on this bill to date. Thank you.